Thanks everyone. Just before I go into talking about the Masters in Public Policy and the Masters in Social Science and Welfare and Justice, just to give a very quick overview of the school. As you'll probably already know, we're a very diverse school, both in terms of our international character of our students and our staff, but also in the degree programs that we offer that you'll see today. We're very research active, and we have lots of impact. We have lots of work with civil society and policy makers. So I'll just leave it there, and I'll start talking about two of the programs we have on offer, the MPP and the Masters of Social Science in Welfare and Justice. So hopefully everyone can see the screen. So just to give you kind of a brief overview of these two programs, the MPP, the Masters in Public Policy, is a really fantastic degree program for people wanting to understand more about policy analysis, for people who may want to go into those kind of policy making or policy facing roles. It's interdisciplinary, it's global, and it's applied, and it's quite unique in Europe in the range of modules that you can take on the Masters. So you have great training in core skills, things like handling data and methods, particularly for policy research analysis, information on public administration, modules on comparative public policy, and evidence-based policy making. Once you've done these core modules, you can specialize in different areas. These include things like citizenship and rights, health, economics, environment studies, European policy, regulation, urban policy, and research methods. We have a really popular internship option for full-time students. These people work in government, civil society, policy-facing roles, charities, and very often we find that our students end up in jobs immediately after the internship. It's a 90-credit master's. You can do this in 1 year full-time or part-time over 2 years. We're pretty highly ranked, so the Ed Universal rankings rank us 14th in Western Europe. We also have strong links with the social policy team, as well as all the teams in the school. But just to say, they're kind of the social policies in the top 100 now in the QS subject ranking, so the MPP gets to benefit from that, as well as all the expertise from all our other colleagues in the school. Our graduates have excellent employability prospects. And like I said, our internship module often results in our students gaining employment almost immediately upon graduation. And we do join in with a 30% club scholarship. This is specifically a scholarship to support and promote future women leaders. So moving over to the Masters in Social Science of Welfare and Justice. This again is a 1 year full-time or 2 years part-time, 90 credits. And it's a bit broader perhaps than the MPP. So it's designed for a wider range of people, perhaps. So, for example, practicing social workers who want to refine certain analytical and management skills using kind of post-qualifying studies, but also anyone who really wants to pursue a research career in policy making and analysis in the fields of social policy and social justice. This would be the kind of masters for you. You will know, and we will talk about this on pretty much all the masters that we do, the work environment for social work practitioners, as well as anyone kind of doing policy facing work, is becoming more and more globalized each year. And social justice and equality issues are increasingly prominent concern in social scientific research, and you don't really have to look far into current affairs to see some examples of this. So just to give you a sense then, this Masters in Welfare and Justice incorporates elements of the other master's programs that my colleagues will talk about in a minute. So the Master of Public Policy, the Professional Master of Social Work, the Masters of the MSc in Equality Studies, and the MSc in Gender Studies. This just gives you a sense again of kind of some of the programs, or the elements of the program. So you'll do core modules around, say, child welfare, adult services and health, human rights law, again, data and methods, and you'll write a dissertation. And then you can take a range of optional modules. These may include things like critical political economy, housing and social cohesion, public administration and policy, comparing healthcare systems, sociology and inequality, and evidence-based policy making. So you can already see that you're able to take modules from across our school and sometimes outside of the school as well. In terms of career opportunities for the Welfare and Justice Masters, a bit like the MPP, but maybe slightly broader. We would see our graduates working in a wide range of fields, including social work, public policy, voluntary work and community work, education, journalism, health and social care, and human rights advocacy. So there's a lot you can do with both the Welfare and Justice Masters and the MPP in these areas. And some of our alumni are employed by major national and international organisations. And you would also get some support and advice if you would like to kind of move on from the Masters to the PhD. So thanks very much for listening. I'm going to pass on now to my colleague, Muireann.
So my name is Muireann Raghallaígh, and I primarily teach on the social work master's program, but I teach in some of the other programs within our school as well. So just to give you a quick overview. So the Professional Masters in Social Work program is a 2-year full-time professional social work program. It's approved by CORU, and CORU are the regulator for social work in Ireland. But the qualification is also recognised in many countries. So we have a lot of international students increasingly on the program. The program combines academic modules and practice placements. So the structure of the program is that in the first trimester of both years, you're on campus doing your academic modules. And then primarily in the second trimester, you do a 14-week placement in the second trimester of both modules. And in the summer of first year, between first and second year, we have a dissertation. So we have really strong partnerships. We're a very long established program, and as a result, we have very strong partnerships with agencies across the country. And this means that we have a lot of practitioner and service user contributions to modules. So we really try to integrate theory with practice. So we have the academic inputs, but also practitioners and service users contributing, which students always give good feedback about. This program leads to a generic qualification in social work. So it equips graduates to practice in a diverse range of different settings. So our graduates are working in really lots of different fields. So sometimes there can be a perception that social work is about children and family social work. And of course, that is a big part of social work. But many of our graduates work in other fields. So for example, mental health social work, working with older people, working increasingly in Ireland with refugees and refugee services, in the criminal justice system. So for example, in prisons or in probation settings, and for example, occupational social workers who work in the defence forces. So these are just some of the areas that our graduates work in. We have a very diverse student cohort, people of different ages, people from different nationalities, different ethnic groups, and that really, I think, contributes to a really kind of dynamic classroom environment and learning from each other within the programme. So this just gives you, I won't go through all of these, but just to give you an example of the kinds of modules that we cover in the program. So you can see here, there's a range of skills-based modules such as social work counselling skills and group work, where students practice the application of skills to practice using role plays and case scenarios, social work methods also. And then we've more theoretical modules like theories of human behaviour and development, social justice and human rights. And then we have some modules specifically designed for preparation for placement, so preparation for professional practice, which happens immediately before going on placement. And then we have our 2 placement modules, as I've mentioned, and these placements would be in diverse settings, so that reflect the job opportunities that I just mentioned. So we'd have placements across all the different sectors available for students, and students always do a different type of sector in year 1 compared with year 2, so they get a broad range of experience. In terms of eligibility, we require students to have relevant practice experience, so 420 hours of practice experience, and this can be interpreted quite broadly in terms of areas that are relevant to social work practice, and an overall grade of a 2-1 in a programme that includes social policy as a major component. But for students who don't have social policy as a major component, we also in our school offer the higher diploma in social policy. And this is available for people without a degree in social policy. So for example, if your degree is in engineering and you'd really like to study social work or become a social worker, you can do this 1-year higher diploma in social policy. And now we have a new pathway where you can apply for the higher diploma in social policy and the professional master's in social work simultaneously, which I think is a great opportunity for students. So if you have any questions, you can email socialwork@ucd.ie, or of course, we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions shortly. I'm passing over now to Dr. Mick Byrne.
I'm going to be talking about the Masters in Equality Studies. What makes equality studies different? Well, first of all, the program is focused very directly on understanding inequality, the causes and the impacts of inequality. And how we do that is through an interdisciplinary approach. So we bring together many social science disciplines, including sociology, politics, economics, and law, in order to understand what inequality is, how it's generated, and what impact it has on people. We also take a multidimensional approach to inequality. So we're not interested in just one form of inequality, but we're interested in class, in race, in gender, migration, sexuality, disability, etc. And then we're also interested in how these forms of inequality interact, so that how they interact in the real world. And the final element, and perhaps for me, just personally, the most important element, is really about focusing not just on understanding inequality, but also on making the world a more equal place. So we're really committed as a team to equality, and that passion for equality runs through all of our modules and the program in general. And the fact that normally on the program, the staff and the students share that deep commitment to equality, I think is really crucial to creating a classroom dynamic where there's great participation, there's great discussion, and also a lot of kind of social cohesion. Sorry to use such an academic term, but a great atmosphere among students on the program. In terms of what it looks like with modules and structures and all that, in the first trimester, as the program is currently set up with two core modules, egalitarian theory and sociology of inequality. And then you can also choose one optional model. In the second trimester, then, we have a kind of a research methods model, but it's one that is specifically focused on using research for social change, especially drawing on feminist research perspectives and egalitarian research perspectives. And then you can do either critical political economy or decoloniality and intersectional thinking, in addition to an optional module. In the summer trimester, then you'll do what we call the Master's Research Project, which is essentially a research dissertation, but it has a really important element, which is that as well as researching an inequality issue, you also have to design some kind of intervention, some kind of action, some kind of policy or communication around that form of inequality, a more public-facing aspect. And that's really important, because learning how to communicate research, how to disseminate research, how to use research to actually make social change happen is a really, really valuable skill in terms of the workplace, and I suppose in terms of activism more generally. In addition to those core components of the program, we then have a bunch of optional models. A lot of them are in-house models, so they're optional models which are offered by the social justice team, but also by our colleagues in social policy. And then we have a number of optional modules as well from other schools within the college, like politics and philosophy, education, etc. So, I mean, as I mentioned, this program is really for people who are passionate about equality. That's the focus, and that's reflected in the type of careers our graduates go on to do. So I'll talk just briefly about what that looks like in Ireland and some of the organizations that our graduates work in. We have some politicians like Carly Bailey of the Social Democrats. We have people working with the Transgender Equality Network Ireland on trans rights. Kiki Martire is the director of spunout.ie, a youth mental health organization. And then Sinead Gibney is the former, she stepped down actually for politics as well. She's running in our upcoming general elections, but she's the former Chief Commissioner of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, which is in a sense the top job in the equality sector in Ireland. Internationally, then, there's loads of international organizations I could mention here, but some of the ones that you're sure to be familiar with include Greenpeace. So Agnes Jesler, a graduate of ours, works on environmental change and socio-economic transformation with Greenpeace, Amnesty International, Oxfam, loads of international NGOs. but also in the private sector as well. 3 of our graduates actually work in Google Europe, working on equality, diversity, and inclusion. Thanks a million for your time. I'm happy to take any questions, of course, and you're also more than welcome to get in touch with me through my email, which Emma will share after this session is finished. I'll hand over now to Dorota, who's going to talk about gender studies.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the UCD MA in Gender Studies, and that's actually the label for our program that is conducted and implemented at our school. And Muireann McAuliffe could not be with us today, but she's a director of MA in Gender Studies. I'm a head of Gender Studies subject. So first, I wanted to maybe just slightly go through what you will learn here if you're our student. And of course, we will center mainly on gender inequalities, on different types of oppression as well that are connected with gender inequalities and that are often linked to gender inequalities within the literature, within the research, and within the practice. So we will talk also about masculinities. We will talk about wider forms of oppressions that are linked to gender identity, sexuality. We are drawing on a number of various topics within the study of sexualities and masculinities. And what we really want to focus on is to have some kind of critical thinking, to cultivate the critical thinking and engagement, not only with literature, not only with the research, but also with the real world, with whatever is happening around us within the politics, within the public policy and the social world. And so this element of engagement, these are actually quite similar to what Dr. Byrne was talking about, is also very much present within our program. We're offering safe space, but also like a challenging space for discussion. We encourage discussions with the students and among the students very much. But we also try to prepare them for functioning as researchers, of course, but also to be to engage within their communities, within anything that they observe in their social realities that they want to actually change. So the career graduate opportunities is also something that is quite important for prospective students. And again, there is a wide range of options. It really depends on what you want to do in your future life. But usually if our students want to be active and want to carry on the education that they got here and the skills, they're working in their local communities, they're working for NGOs, they're very often employed in public sector agencies. They also work in media organizations and in some of the international organizations that we already mentioned. And whenever they're working, it seems like they are carrying this, I would say, element of engagement and activism with them, very much centered on gender inequalities, but also not neglecting other forms of oppression. And we have, again, several very strong options to select from, but our core education, our core studies center around the most important critical themes within gender studies. We put a lot of emphasis on the study of decoloniality, intersectionality, but the second semester in principle is also devoted to your master research project. And I won't be talking too much about this because this is very similar to what Dr. Byrne already talked about. So we really want our students to gain these skills and to somehow to transform this engagement and this interest in the real world into the research piece and into the piece when they are communicating the research results and using it for changing reality. And again, you can find us at the UCD website. You can contact both myself and Muireann McAuliffe, who is the director of the program, and we have just as we have full-time and part-time options. So that is something to consider for you as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dorota. So I'm delighted now to introduce our current one of our current students on the MSc Equality Studies program. So Iona, welcome, just to give your reflection about studying in the school.
So hi everyone, my name's Iona. I'm currently a full-time student in the Masters of Science of Equality Studies. I went to undergrad at UCLA, and my original plan was, and I got my degree in political science with a concentration in political theory. I originally had plans to go to law school, but I just didn't feel ready. And one of my biggest regrets at UCLA was not taking advantage of studying abroad. So I did some research and I found out Ireland takes American financial aid, which if you're international, you know what that is. And I chose UCD because one, it has 50%, all 50% of international students that come to Ireland to study go to UCD. So that really attracted me because they really help streamline the process to make it as simple as possible. And when I saw the Masters of Science in Equality Studies, it advertised as social justice, voting, politics, all of that. And it really spoke to me because my career back in America was all about voting registration, speaking to people about those types of things and trying to just push justice issues forward. So with it being a one-of-a-kind program, and then also there's no American equivalent to it, I also found out. They only have human rights. So it was just very unique and it just spoke to me. So just being in the school in my class, my cohort is amazing. And we really take the time to create a safe space to talk about the issues of the world and maybe preconceived notions we had or biases, and unpacking that and moving forward. Egalitarian research was definitely my favorite class. I feel like all of this has just been changing my life for the better with the way I'm learning about the world, with the way we're moving forward. All the professors, super accepting, super welcoming. And it's just been an amazing path so far. The application process, super easy peasy, personal statement, your curriculum vitae or resume. And I like that they had a lot of additional stuff we can submit. And so I was able to submit my voting research in the past and all of that. And something that really spoke to me was that I was a little insecure about applying because of my GPA from UCLA. But Dr. Krishna, who also is going to be a professor in the program and helps run it, she had a meeting with me and she was like, we take in your character. Grades isn't everything. What you want to do in life isn't, well, obviously what you want to do in life is going to align with equality studies, but we take in who you are as a person and what you're going to do with your life. And that made me feel really good and confident going into this. So I definitely recommend joining this program. It's super unique. My current mentor, she is the director for social justice at St. Johns Hopkins. And so I had opportunities to go to conferences with her. And that's what my career thing has been going on right now, networking, conferences, and just opening up opportunities for the future. So yeah, 10 out of 10 recommend. It's an amazing program. And yeah.
Thanks so much, Iona. That's fantastic. Really good insight into what it's like to be a graduate student in the School of Social Policy, Social Work and Social Justice, and the application process in general. So we've just got a few moments to answer a few of the questions live. So I might put this one to Dr. Mick Byrne. Is there a dissertation required for the equality studies? And just confirming it is a level 9 course.
Yes, it is indeed level 9. Thanks for the question. The dissertation component is the summer research project. We call it a master's research project, but it's exactly equivalent to a master's dissertation, as you'll find on the vast majority of master's programs. So it's a 30 credit module, which would be the standard, and it involves a huge component to that is independent research with a supervisor who's a member of staff.
Great. And is there a deadline for applying to the MSc Equality Studies?
We encourage people to submit by July of the year that they're hoping to start. We do sometimes help people who are making late applications, but we have what we call a rolling deadline. So there's no particular deadline.
Great, thanks. In terms of, we're going to give you a question in terms of the professional masters of social work. How strict is the 420 hours placement? Can you have less than 200 hours when applying?
So I would have to check the exact number you need when you're applying, but by the time you start the program, you need to have 420 hours. I suppose what it's worth mentioning here is you can take into account lots of different experiences throughout your life. So for example, sometimes we have mature students who maybe have raised a family and they're coming back to study. And I remind them that maybe they did some volunteering when they were in school and they're like really surprised to think that we would consider that. So it's really broad in terms of what we consider. So I'd really encourage someone to get in touch with us at the socialwork@ucd.ie email address, and we can give a bit more advice about the experience you've had and what might be eligible. That's
great, thank you. And just specifically, Matt and Muireann, just in terms of the scholarships available through each of the programs, Matt has touched on it, but there's some queries just in regard to scholarships for the masters in professional masters in social work, or in general international student scholarships.
Yeah, so in the professional masters of social work, we often have widening participation and sanctuary scholarships. So these are for people who come from underrepresented groups and from refugee backgrounds. So that's something that you could contact us about if you're interested. And I think UCD Global also provides some scholarships overall, Emma, isn't that right? So you might also be eligible for UCD Global scholarships. So there are some scholarships. Available, yes.
And just in relation to the deadline for the professional masters in social work, and just the whether or not the school helps with sourcing the placements.
Yeah, the school sources the placements. Students aren't allowed to source their placements. We source the placements, so that's our responsibility. And we sometimes have international placements, but not always. In terms of the deadline for the program, so we have a rolling deadline at the moment. So we're doing some interviews next week, and then we'll be doing further interviews in, I think it's early February. So there'll be a deadline of the middle of January for the professional masters in social work.
Just coming to the masters in public policy, Matt. Is there a certain GPA that is required for applicants to apply to the program? And can you elaborate then on PhD opportunities after the Master of Public Policy?
Sure, yeah. So in terms of the entry requirements, we require a 2-1 in an undergrad or the international equivalent. And if you go onto the admissions pages, it has all the kind of the conversions that you might need. We do sometimes consider people who don't kind of quite meet the requirements, particularly if, for example, you've been working in a public policy environment or something relevant to the course. So if that's the case, I'd recommend you email mpp@ucd.ie, and then we can help you. We like taking people from a broad range of backgrounds. We tend to also say that we probably prefer people with a social science background just because of kind of the research methods. However, if you have some kind of experience, if you've done a degree which has some kind of research methods experience, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, because quite often we can bring other people onto the masters. It's just to make sure that you've got the kind of the foundation to be able to hit the ground running, or if we need to kind of help you find other support, really. And just to reinforce the fact that we're all super friendly and we all want to see you, so please do, contact us. We're more than happy to help you with any questions. Even if you think they're silly questions, they won't be. If they're super specific, we've probably heard it before at some point, so we should be able to help you. Any questions, just feel free to get in touch. And thank you so much for coming to the webinar today.